recording. All right, call to order the City of Lowell Budget Committee meeting Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. Roll call, please.
Councilor Harris.
Here.
Councilor Stratus.
Here.
Councilor Weathers.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
All right, committee member Petrie.
Here.
Committee member George.
Yep.
Committee member B. Wilson.
Here.
Committee member Annis is absent, and Mayor Bennett is absent.
Okay, let's go ahead and stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Okay, so it's a pretty simple agenda, so I don't think we have any changes or discussions on that. So we can just go ahead and move forward, yes. Old business, we're gonna resume the consideration of the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. City Administrator, did you want to give like a brief summary verbally of what you got on the documentation, or?
Sure, I'll be happy to. All right, I'll just review this changes from last time. I reduced the general fund allocation of public works employees, increased their allocation to the water fund and sewer fund. There's an allocation table in your packet that illustrates that. I eliminated the new truck for the public works department. That includes the offsetting loan proceeds, as well as the first year's loan payment. Increased policing to 10,000. At the last meeting, we talked about 8,300. Following some conversations I had with Oak Ridge, they rounded up that hourly rate. So I'll round it up to 10,000. It's not that much of a difference. I removed the new gate for the water treatment plant. The Blackberry Jam Festival Fund required just a small increase to make it balance. Moved the library membership fee. That decreased general fund revenue $7,500. Increased the water fund revenues to $27,211. That was based on the recommendation to keep water rates at the current levels and not to do the cut in rates. And I'll just pull up these sheets that show which accounts changed. So the first one is changes in expenditures, and you can see the accounts that have the COLA adjustment. Moving of the public works truck and loan, adding back the police. Most of those changes that you see are the personnel accounts for the COLA and the reallocation for public works. And following that, I have revenues accounts. That shows the library membership removed. It also shows the loan proceeds that have been removed to fund the public works truck. I also have a table that shows different scenarios for sewer fund rates, if you want to talk about adjusting the sewer rates. So to break even, a rate of $83.48 would be required. After further thinking about this, I would suggest considering a rate between what we currently have and what's necessary to break even. That way, next year, you're not looking at as high of a jump to keep the sewer funds at a break even level. That's a high level summary of what I've prepared for you.
Okay, thank you. So I remember reading here somewhere that basically you feel that really the only discussion we really have tonight, or maybe the thing is changing that sewer rate. That,
And unless there are other questions or comments.
yeah, I'll just open it up.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Jeremy, did you feel like with all those changes that the general fund looks doable at this point? I know we're gonna have to watch it all year, but.
On this table in your packet, it shows the ending fund balances projected for June 30th, 2025. And the general fund goes from 98,000 to 91,000. That's assuming that we sell all the properties and that things go as planned with the lawsuit for East Main Street. But if everything works out as planned, the general fund is at an acceptable level, I believe.
Okay. So I guess we just all need to hear that and understand we'll be watching it all year. We have to make adjustments as we go if it doesn't. Okay. Thank you.
Right.
With regard to the sewer department, the rate study. When is that and when's it starting? When's it completing? How much was that? Can you refresh me?
That was about $20,000, and as far as starting on it, as just as soon as, well, we can have Civil West Engineering do that to us under our current contract with them and not have to do a prolonged competitive selection process. If we go that route, we can start as soon as this budget's adopted.
Is that who the bid's from? The $20,000?
Correct.
Okay. Is that in engineering services and sewer fund is increased by 20,000? Is that where that's all going?
Let me take a look and make sure we're looking at the same thing.
Page 76,
Page 76.
document page 76 on the screen.
Gotcha. Okay. Actually, let me look in my data table here.
We're splitting it. I don't know what else is in there.
All right, it's in engineering services,
Split or all for sewer?
all for sewer. So the sewer would be 20,000 and water is 20,000.
$40,000.
Correct.
Would it benefit to go out to bid?
Possibly, I know that one agency, what is that state agency, Max?
With the OEW,
OAW, they could do it for, what was it, about 15 each?
no. 15 for water, but the data collection is very similar to the way that our utility billing system works. And then I don't remember off the top of my head what sewer was gonna be. But it would be that much for the one, and I don't remember what he said honestly.
Do they do sewer rate studies?
They do everything, yeah, but they base everything off water because it population and flow, and then use the same numbers for sewer. You
Gotcha.
can't,
But you don't recall it being double, it wasn't 15.
I don't think so.
Well, then,
I might still have to
go out to bid. That's a lot. I mean, again, I probably wouldn't have questioned it, but then when you look on your thing about what $25,000 costs us at a rate increase. You know, then. That's a lot.
Can someone refresh my memory on what the rate study is for?
Certainly. So with the rate study, we have a consultant who, they analyze our costs for operating both of the utilities. They also look at our capital improvements plan. They also look at trends in consumption or sales. In other words, our revenues. they compile all of that information to generate a financial plan, a 5-year financial plan for the utilities. So that includes projections in our expenses for inflation, as well as what we need to fund our capital plan, as well as what increase is going to be needed for us to meet our financial goals. As part of that, they usually analyze comparable jurisdictions so we can see how our rates compare once we do any increases. And they compile all that in a nice informative report.
I didn't see it. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I thought you were pointing at Tim. I thought you were pointing at Tim.
I don't know how the city does this, but in my business, I never do anything without 3 bids. And the reason I do that is because I learned from these bids some things that I really didn't think about. And that doesn't necessarily mean you want to take the least expensive bid, but it definitely gives you an idea of where the market is out there. And when I had my own private business, I did a lot of bidding. And it's the toughest part of the business is to do bids, because you do want the business, but you also want it to be a bid that you could live with. And to just take one bid, I don't think that's good business. I really don't. That's also why I was wondering, speaking of bids, Max, did you get a chance to find out what it might cost to put a blacktop, a 1-lane blacktop over our thing?
I have made the phone calls, I have not received anything.
And the other thing is, did we talk to the lawyer to see, because Jim brought up something that might be an issue, that if we did fix it so that people won't be complaining about going up down the street, is that gonna go against our lawsuit? Did anybody call the lawyer and find out about that?
What do you mean go against the lawsuit?
Well, Jim said, if we do that, then the opposing people will say, well, you've got it fixed, so why are we even here? And
Unfortunately, I can't talk about our case in a public.
well, I'm understanding, have you questioned whether we could go ahead and do this, and would it affect the case? I don't want to know about the case, but you do, and can you tell us, can we do that? Is it gonna affect the case?
I think if the city administrator answered that question, that would be divulging information about the case. So for context, all I said is that I would be uncomfortable to make a decision about that road without talking to the lawyer. That was my only point.
Yeah, and I agree with that, why step on ourselves? But in the same tone, we need to protect our citizens, and they got a legitimate bitch going through the gravel up there. I drove in gravel most of my life because of country boy, and it's no big deal, but it is to them. And I think that it wouldn't cost very much to fix it so that at least the dust wouldn't be in their houses and all over the place. They live in the city for a reason.
We do have it under, we do have it under, the city council to be discussing all of that, so
Okay,
it's not just being thrown out, we're working on it, trying to decide what the best thing to do is, so.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if I may, in the street fund, we do have $60,428 budgeted in the capital outlay category for street improvements. That's not allocated to any specific project, but if there is an opportunity throughout the fiscal year to do some temporary fixes, that might be there.
We can tap it.
Right.
Well, I just mentioned that rate study because if we're gonna change rates, or we're considering changing rates to a number that we don't. I mean, we have basis for what it'd take to be break even where we are now, but we talked last time about, are we doing the allocations of salaries correctly? Because sewer doesn't take as much necessarily effort as water, and so I'm just real reluctant to get too aggressive on rate changes when we're gonna pay this money to have the study and we're not even sure whether the part we're doing is accurate. So I don't wanna just change it. And raising rates is no small feat, as we know. We don't wanna raise and look, get like we don't know what we're doing.
I'm totally comfortable with the idea of like going to bid on the rate study. And I appreciate your point that we might find in the bids that the more expensive one is a better package. And so we might still go with that. But I think we still have to decide on a number that we're comfortable with budgeting for a rate study.
Right.
So are we okay with 20,000?
Well, then that's 40,000 compared to that's 15, maybe.
But if we budget for 15 and then we find, gosh, we really like that more expensive bid because it's a better product.
Okay, but if we budget 40 and then we raise rates to break even to 40.
That's a separate, I'm not talking about the rates.
Well, I'm talking
I
about
know.
it together.
I think we have to answer, I think we have to answer this question separate from the rate study, because we have to budget for a rate study. Sorry, separate from raising the rates. We have to budget for a rate study no matter what. I feel like we agreed on. So we have to have a number in here. I'm comfortable with the 20. It's a long way of saying I'm comfortable with the allocated proposed 20,000.
And if we return some, we return some.
If we return some, we return some.
If we get a lower bid, we're happy.
As long as it doesn't cause us to raise rates in excess of what we really needed to. I just think that's part of that discussion for
I was
me.
gonna say, what she's saying is, we might not have to raise the rates as much if we are spending as much on it. So,
Because they should include the amount of the rate study into, if that's part of sewer,
It is.
that's part of. And if we have to do this every 3 to 5 years or whatever, I don't know how often we do this. But that's a cost to doing business, which then reflects in the rate. So somehow I missed the whole rate study thing. I was focused on the employee study thing. And so we're doing 8,000 for the employee study, and now we're doing 2040 for the rate study. What happened to, we have a huge history here of numbers. Right? And I know the study will include more than that, but like I'm sure in your business, you looked at past costs and revenue and then you project out into the future reasonably what you think. That's what they're giving us for this 40,000. They're gonna take, I must have missed something.
We talked a lot more about this in council, and Max and Jeremy, please correct me if I'm wrong. Part of this is having outside experts help us know if there are efficiencies that we're not realizing. So separate from just anyone can look at literal rates and
Correct.
project a number. This is them really doing a deep dive evaluation of our processes.
Of the
and seeing,
engineering.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Are we doing this the best that we could to make the best use of our resources? So it is a more in-depth.
Okay, thank you.
and the other thing is that, instead of just making a balance, we're trying to make sure we're not just throwing numbers at the wall, because just to, and last year was an example that we've just done these increments and then suddenly, we had a problem. So that's what we're trying to not avoid, so we're not having these massive jumps all at once. We can plan ahead and understand what we need to do, so. That's the goal, is to serve our community better in terms of how we raise our rates and why.
I don't know that anybody could have, sorry, Maureen,
No good.
predicted what happened with the drawdown. I don't know that the Army Corps gave cities, hey, this is gonna happen and this is gonna cost you $1 million and you better get ready for that. That was unprecedented. What I'm talking about is the general equipment maintenance software. A piece of equipment lasts 5 years or 10 years and you schedule for that to replace that.
And so are we. We're looking at just the normal.
Basics
Yeah,
of operating.
of operating. And, no, that wasn't even a consideration when we started talking about the rate study. This was a long time ago. It was before the drawdown ever happened. So it really isn't connected.
No, I'll just touch on that. One thing that's very important about a rate study, and they are expensive, they are, but it takes a little bit of the guesswork out of moving forward. It anticipates growth and everything, but the biggest thing that it does is, as everybody knows, we've spent a lot of money on master plans in the last 5 years. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then in turn, it gives us a $10 million project for the next 25 years. What the rate study does, it takes now, plan for the future, and it incorporates those plans also into it. And the reason why that's important is any grant that we go for, any loan we go for, anything, they're gonna stay. Well, when's the last time you did a rate study? You know, can you afford this debt? And on paper right now, it's gonna be a no, you know, just because of the way things are. It's gonna change. I personally believe that it will change the sewer completely. There will not be a flat fee. I think it'll go to variable. That's what everybody's doing. It's a more consistent way of going. So it also not just takes care of things right now, but you know, for example, most of them are 3 to 5 years. The one that we have quoted from the other place that Jeremy was talking about was a 4-year quote, but a 1-year follow-up. And what they do is they say, okay, year one, you're gonna raise water rates 5%, right? Sewer rates 5%. The first year you don't do what they recommend, and the rest of the plan doesn't count. It's unfortunate, and there's cities that have done that. I've been part of some of their studies. But what it does is, you know, obviously it's a document for the city, so it's gonna be the public. They can say, oh, well, you know, my utility rate's gonna go up 3% next year. You know that. It's not gonna be a surprise come July 1. We vote here to do that, you know. People can see it, or you can forecast it and tell people. But also what it does is the years that you do a little better, which we are doing a little bit better in a specific fund this year, you know, those kind of things. Oh, well, maybe that's gonna move this capital, you know, down a little bit. You know, you gotta, you know, say $20,000 extra you didn't plan on having or something. So they are expensive. I'm so on the fence about spending the money and not, you know, but it is in this current year's budget, so that we did not spend, you know, so that it's in both the funds also.
Lead with the grant next time. That was good.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's the first thing they're gonna ask is they say, can you afford it? And then if you say yes, they're gonna say, prove it. That's what they say, you know, and if you can't prove it, we had a hard time with the street loan. When we did the repaving on the
See,
water.
but that's a really solid reason. Thank you for that.
And Lisa, I just want to clarify, the reason why it came up is because in the packet is this discussion about a rate increase, so I printed off the sewer fund alone, and I saw that, and I knew we talked about the rate study, so it wasn't in part of this thing, it was a
Okay.
council meeting, I just wanted. to
We're not
clarify.
adding money.
Yeah.
Well, I had highlighted this to ask, but we never got around to it last time. What was that?
Okay,
So, thank you.
I just didn't want you to think that, yeah,
No,
we're
no, that.
talking code and
It's
stuff.
hard
like
to come in.
that. That's not-
No, but it's hard to come in full sometimes.
Oh, absolutely, we get that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just note for the record that Don Bennett entered at 6:19 in Zoom.
Great.
Aye.
You probably just listening, yeah. I have a question. So this was in the current year budget, the 20,000 per, and it's in the 24-25 budget. Do we, getting additional bids aside, is there a time frame for this? I mean, are we going to get it done this year, like before winter, or what do you?
Realistically, I think it would be, starting in 2025, early 2025. I believe there are other projects that are higher priority, in particular pivoting to the property sales is critical for us to get those in the market. I
Yeah.
believe that should be our next priority.
I think I agree. Get those sold so we can
Yeah,
move forward.
get those decks off our.
Is it?
So what is our, capacity or number, I don't know how to ask the question, for water and sewer? What are we at it with the population we have? Do we have a long way to go?
Growth wise,
Yeah, like if we're, I know we're not at 1,000, but whatever we're at, can we double the population before we have to increase the water plan? Where are we at?
Hold on, no, not even close. We're close. We're pushing the threshold, and not strictly just because of population, but because of irrigation.
Okay.
A lot of things, you know, the auxiliary water, we're fine, you know, more than half the time of the year. But what happens is, as new homes come in, like the subdivision I live in, and the other one just went up, every person has an irrigated yard. So where most of the people in this room, on average, use 3,000, 4,000, where they use, you know, probably 5,000, 6,000. And so that skews those numbers a little bit. So we're allotted a set amount of EDUs, is what they call it, equivalent dwelling units.
Mhm.
The school consumes about 80 of those. So say there was 500 of them, you know, but the school also has, you know, 700 kids that go there, you know, versus our population. The sewer plant needs some work. you know, to come up with times and everything, but the city will not outgrow the infrastructure that's down there.
Mhm.
We just need to make some improvements to it.
Okay,
We've already, heard the people in council know that the master plan, you know, clearly states we need a new water plant. That's what we're currently seeking funding for. A new tower so that we can develop the remaining 135 acres, you know. Then, of course, the issue would be a much different story. The town won't get big enough to take over the capacity if that was to happen.
okay,
Because we just don't have the footprint to do that. So.
but the water is close.
The water's close, yeah, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, we're, depending on how the summer goes, we might struggle. We struggled every year I've been here in 10 years. Just to be honest with you, we're well past what you're supposed to run a plant, you know, we literally run 23 hours and some odd minutes every day from about June to into September. And the only time we take it down is for maintenance and backwashes, so. Plus, you know that our water, municipal water is a huge source of fire protection for the citizens, so it's pretty crucial. Yeah. So yes, that's where we're at, but the rate study, you know, specifically when this was started, it was targeted towards the water plant, and that's what it's for, is to prepare us for the future. You know, even though it's only looking at a 3 to 5 year window, everything we do now is gonna help for, you know, 10, 20, 15 years down the road.
Because it seems like right before we moved here, there was a moratorium on building
There
in
was,
the late 90s, because I don't know if it was the
the
water.
moratorium got lifted, and a year after I started working here, because I think it just kind of got forgot. The upgrades were done in 04 and 08.
Oh.
And I think we were limited to 3 houses a year or something like that, wasn't it? There was a weird number. Well, the St. Benny's wasn't done, you know, so I talked to Jared, I said, we gotta look at this. And he's like, oh, so we had to do sorry, Jared. So anyways, left in the moratorium, and then you seen it happen, I think, pretty quick.
Thank you.
Oh, I did.
Okay, so. Right, where are we at?
So I think, the 20, it's in the budget now, it's a mistake, and there's no just further
No,
desire or discussion to take it out or
that
less.
was already planned.
Okay, all right. So that's gonna affect probably the next conversation as far as rates go, are, if I remember reading this one today, you had suggested city administrator like instead of going all the way up, let's kind of decide on a midway point. And I think knowing now that the study will be in the beginning-ish of 2025, I think maybe that's a good idea, because we're not slamming it hard right this year. And we're getting the data from the study before next year, so we'll know how close we are, what do we gotta do for next year, instead of going all the way up to the max, that you pick somewhere in between. Or pick the number that just makes us break even. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if there's other discussion about that. I mean, we have to raise the rate. There's no choice, right?
We don't have to,
Okay, good.
if you keep the rate the same, the ending fiscal 25 balance that's projected,
Mhm.
you just pull up that sheet.
Okay. Max, well, there's Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is responsible from Ruby's side, and I don't know the answer without the study. It's unfortunate, but something Max said, it concerns me. If we have to follow their proposals to say that our rate study is effective, if they suggest that we have a certain rate and we don't raise it this year, and then the rate they come back with is a significant jump, we just further increase that hole or further increase that jump. We're kind of self-creating the Santa pack problem of not increasing rates. And I don't know what the rate should be. That's the problem. I fully acknowledge, I don't know what number it should be based on the study that hasn't happened yet, but I'm worried that if we don't raise the rates and they come back and say, yeah, the rates need to go up $30 and we haven't done anything.
I'm not saying that.
Oh, I don't think you are saying, I'm saying it just really occurred to me.
Put my head in the sand.
Well, go ahead.
So Jeremy, does the I know I've asked this in the past, whatever we're talking about right now, the fees, somebody help me here. Sewer, the utility rates, they don't have to be adopted by budget, correct? You can do rate increases any time in the year, is that right?
Oh, okay.
Because what I was thinking on that is, regardless if you guys decide to do something now, or a little bit now, or whatever, it's kind of like what we talked about last year with the water rate, you know, because we didn't know where we were gonna be, but, you know, you could, I mean, literally, you could wait till the end of the year, see where the beginning fund balances are, and you could do a rate increase after that, or you could wait, this is what Jeremy talked about last year, you could wait until midway through start of 24, which would be November, December, see where we're at, and I'll give you guys a perfect example, not for the sewer, but for the water, all of our money is earned between June and September. I mean, it is a significant amount of money that's earned in that time period, and the rest of it, I mean, I can tell you exactly what it's gonna be every month. Sewer's not like that because it's a flat fee, you know, so you can look at the sewer fund, and I know that we're gonna get, you know, say it's $50,000 every month, and if a house comes in, then we're gonna get $50,050 every month, you know? So just keep that in mind, you know, it's, well, it would be to council, then of course, it wouldn't be to the current budget, but.
Mr. Chairman, if it will help, I'll just walk you through very quickly how I came up with the rate and the revenues for the sewer fund. It's very easy. We have our projected equivalent dwelling units for the fiscal year. We have a total budget. I subtracted certain things that I want the rate to cover. Those things total $118,000. In other words, we'll use accumulated fund balance to pay for those things.
And is there anything special in the sewer systems, the 50 grand and the 48.3? Is there anything, are those targeted as required, or those estimates, or what? I know we took the gate thing out.
The gate was reflected here, so there's a zero budget for it since I took it
And
out.
what's been our history on the next two lines? Are
So-
those reasonable, or what?
Well, let me just go to my sheet.
That helps.
All right, the $50,000 that includes $25,000 for sewer system repairs and $25,000 for repairs to address inflow and infiltration issues.
So routine maintenance that we do, is that what we've been spending?
So the routine maintenance, let me,
140 was budget.
That's the master,
maintenance repairs.
Master plan.
the 125.
Okay, so we really don't have much history.
What are you talking about, master plan?
No, she was talking about a 125 or history on it.
That's not what I'm talking.
Right, he was clarifying for me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What is this? Maintenance repairs. That's a subcategory.
It's like 6330, Jeremy. Should be up a little bit, yeah. Maintenance and repairs.
Here we go. $48, okay, that's it right there. All right, that includes light bulbs, exterior paint, just building repair and maintenance. It includes the generator service, blower maintenance service, sewer line cleaning and maintenance, line blockages, other miscellaneous repairs.
And so that's what we do every year.
Some of them, like the annual fire inspections, we do every year. Which of those are one time?
So the first sewer line repair one, you know, that's a unexpected blockage or something, you know, like a water leak, but on the sewer side.
Okay.
Then the other stuff is standard, you know, the sewer line cleaning and maintenance, that we bought the camera stuff for that. Can't predict blockages. Let's see, anything else? Yeah, the rest of that is,
So that's pretty much what we do every year. I mean, in that range of spending.
yeah, and if you look back, I mean, there's been several years that we've been over on repair and maintenance.
Yes, okay.
But yeah.
Okay, nothing weird that's, yeah, okay.
Lower in the station, yeah. Brass pumps, remember that? Brass pumps, that was a very expensive project. That was not planned, obviously.
So we have $118,300 worth of stuff we're gonna pay for with current savings. That leaves a budget to be covered, expenses to be covered of $620,000. When you divide the expenses by the EDUs, we have a $1,021.50 per month. That's 85.
8513.
8513. And then I'm leaving it at the current month, so that takes some more.
And none of that includes payroll? Or does?
Mostly.
That
Yes.
total,
Okay,
At the new 3.5 COLA increase.
Right. So you're looking at raising
That's-
$15, right?
To meet the break even, yes. I'm not, what I have factored in right now keeps it at its current level.
For what, the
sewer.
sewer?
So let me be, so if we leave it at the 6851, there's a deficit in the budget.
Correct.
Okay, so to break even, what you're saying is we do need an increase.
Correct.
to at least the 8348. According to your chart.
That 8513 up there, didn't you? On your, on the screen, I thought that's what I saw.
Yeah, it's, the way that this fancy color coded table worked is close enough.
Okay. So the 8348 is closer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Close out the break even.
So that's kind of goes back to what we were kind of saying.
If there's a hundred and some
Kinda go
thousand
half
dollar
way.
contingency? I'm not understanding what break even means to us here.
To not use any of our savings, not, keep our beginning fund balance or, savings, beginning fund balance, and only spend the revenues that we generate throughout the year.
I'm sorry,
But I thought there was a contingency in here,
Let me-
$100,000.
I got my numbers backwards. I got them switched around. So there's a deficit, if you leave the rates the way they are. There's a deficit of 109,279. And an ending fund balance of 118,649. I took the ending fund balance and put that in contingency. If we spend nothing out of contingency at the end of the fiscal year, this is what your ending fund balance is going to do.
Okay, so we balance if we don't do
Yeah,
enough.
deficit spending is different than having. a deficit.
That's what I was trying to, that deficit.
We balance, but there's still a fund deficit. There's 109,000 more expenses than revenues.
Right, meaning we dig into, like Max was just saying, our savings or our buffer or whatever you want.
But that's not a negative fund balance.
Right, okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm following that.
But
So. Yeah, I mean,
I'm just gonna throw something out, because we're jumping around here, we're doing a 3.5% COLA, do a 3.5% rate increase. Just as a place to start the discussion. Because we do have a contingency, and that's what contingency is.
so what?
Then there's some of these things are estimated.
And just on the sewer.
so you're saying what number
Yes,
rate falls into a 3.5 increase?
Well, that's what.
Yeah.
We are. was gonna-
He's got it in calculator, yeah.
7562 then.
Go ahead.
So this is where I get confused. If we increase to 8348, does that grow our savings? Or, let me ask this another way, what is the actual rate that we need to be charging to cover the actual cost to provide this service? Separate,
From the contingency.
Well, it's not from the use beginning balance.
That's that 1019 number.
Right, that's where we would have to
Where
have
fund balance would
the 8348.
I get the fund balance. What I'm saying is, and this is something, member B. Wilson has brought up. I want to make sure that we're having an honest conversation with our citizens of what the actual cost to provide this service is. So if something happened and we didn't have that contingency, and we had to actually provide this service with the rates, what would the rate need to be?
So,
Does that make any sense what I'm saying?
no,
Stripping out the actual revenues and expenses, revenues minus expenses, what's the reality? Not starting fund, ending fund.
Right.
so wasn't that the 75, 62?
What's our starting balance in the sewer fund?
Mm,
Proposed.
230, 243 proposed. So you'd be going from 243 to whatever it's in.
To 118 if we don't do anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yes.
So we lower that over
Right.
time, and we did that for many years, and we don't want to get in that thing where we kept eating away at the
That's the
fund
thing, we don't.
in general.
I think I can help Jimmy a
Thank
little
you.
bit, because, so we're using beginning fund balance to pay for some stuff that we don't pay for every year. Okay, we're not gonna do a rate study every year. Let's just say it is 20 in the sewer. We're not gonna do a rate study every year. So to raise the rate to cover that 20,000, right? Then that rate stays there for the year after year. So what's gonna happen? You're gonna over collect 20,000 each year, right? So that's not a big deal. But some of the other stuff that we have planned in there, right? It's not a lot of money at all, but Jeremy pulled that out, that those very top numbers that he had in there, you know. You can't predict repair and maintenance, but that stuff right there, the building facilities, that's where the gate was, that's where the truck was, right? You don't want to do a rate increase to cover one-off things, right?
Right.
So you want to use the savings, you know, some of the stuff is a need, you know, or which way, but it's like, okay, so we're at this, right? So let's say at that rate, just to simplify numbers, we're gonna generate $100,000 from July 1st to June 30th, right? But let's say in a normal year, you know, we spend 105,000, right? So then, you know, maybe we would adjust a little bit to compensate for that 5,000, right? But let's say we had 50,000 in capitals, one-time capitals, right? Or other things, a rate study, what's the other thing we're doing? If we do a wage salary benefit study, anything like that, right? We have some other stuff coming in that is money that we don't typically spend. So if you raise the rate for that, then that rate's always gonna be there, and you don't do it the next year, you're gonna get into a loop where you're over collecting, you know, say 70,000, right?
Except, as member B. Wilson said, if we need to be doing this study every 3 to 5 years, like I hear you that these are unique things this year, but there's always unique things every year. And if we always reactionary budget for them, but not built in, we're gonna have to have these expenses. Maybe this year it's a rate study, next year it's replace lines.
If we pay
That's what
for a
I'm
rate
saying.
study, just like this wage salary benefit study that you guys are gonna look at, they give you all the details, right? They're literally gonna pull data from Cassell, which is their utility billing system. They're gonna talk to staff, that's what they do. They're gonna talk to any prospective builders, anything, and what they're gonna do is they're gonna give you that template, right? I'm not saying outside contracted, but when you have that tool, right? Let's say that we do get some funding for the master plan, for the capital improvement projects. Jeremy can take that template that they have, right, and say, oh, well, we're gonna move this project up by 5 years. Let me plug that into the capital to include that in running costs. Oh, well, instead of doing their recommended 3% increase this year, we need to do a 4.5 to cover that loan payment, a 20-year loan payment's gonna come up. Once we have that tool, it is ours to keep. It's specific to Lowell, so we should be able to just do exactly what Jeremy's doing. But what I'm saying is the biggest change is I think it's gonna change how the sewer, in my opinion, how the sewer is built. I think it's gonna be similar to water. There's gonna be a base, and there's gonna be a variable rate based on water use outside of summer months, right? The stuff that actually goes down your drain. Summertime, we're not gonna charge you guys to irrigate your yard. Well, we're charging for the water, but we're not gonna charge you sewer for that. So I think the rate study is very important. But it's gonna give us the tool for anybody to use in the future moving forward. Just like the wage salary benefit study, when they give us the comparables, and if we don't do raises, or even if we're in that range, we have that forever. So the next time somebody questions it, we plug that data in, maybe make a few phone calls to that municipality, see where they're at, you know, and move on like that. once you pay for it, it becomes a tool for you to use forever, until something else comes along, but yeah, the rate study, when I said that, I didn't mean spend that, because you know, that 20, next year is gonna be 25 and then 35. You spend it one time, you own that document, it's a live document, you plug the data numbers in, you should be good to go.
What was the last, rate increase for sewer?
Last year, we did a 3% rate,
Last year?
I believe we did a 3% last year.
What is, what's 3.5% increase now on 6851?
$70.91 is what I came up with.
Yeah, I was doing the three and a half on the total bill.
So just one tier of the. first
No,
year.
you're gonna do them, yeah. you're not doing them.
No, that's when I was.
Oh,
I think. If we're gonna do it, let's make it even numbers. And instead of 71 this and 78, $72, that's what your sewer costs each year. And leave it there. And that covers the 3.5%. If you think we have to do it. If we don't, then we should take 6851 and make it 69.
So it's an increase of. So yeah, I guess we gotta take one step back. What's the consensus of actually having a rate increase? Do we feel we need to do them?
I feel like we need to.
No.
I'm not comfortable with having it jump up. to
So then the next
83,
question, would be, yeah,
But we need to, so we don't keep falling behind.
yeah,
yeah, that's my concern.
so then the next step would be,
Do something.
where do we go? Do we go all the way up to the 83, or do we go in there somewhere in between?
They'll say $72 a year, I like that.
A year? Oh, all right.
Did anybody do a figure on the three?
Well, the 72.
The 72, I think.
Oh, that covers.
Well, I'd be different if we weren't doing the rate study, but we're doing the rate study, you know, we're gonna spend good money, one-time money for this rate study. I don't know why we just arbitrarily jack up a rate when we're standing here in the dark, you know, just, and again, that's what contingency's for, is one-time thing. I don't know, I would just assume,
So.
we got that covered, I would just assume cover the rate study, because that's what we know we need to do, and it's already in the budget, but it's not taking us negative.
Right.
Deficit spending isn't always bad when it fluctuates. It's when you do deficit spending over and over and over again. I mean,
Finally, you reach the bottom.
yeah,
You dig a
you know,
hole.
you could- but that's hopefully the rate study's gonna give us a way to anticipate
We were in the
stuff.
red for many years when I started here.
Hmm.
Maybe,
We what?
we were in the red, we were operating in the red, you know, we budgeted on paper to show a balance, but I'm
And
telling
if
you.
we found ourselves struggling because some big thing came up. Can we raise it then again if we thought we needed to? or
You could
is that
raise money. I've had 3 races when I lived in Springfield. The
in-
July one, yep.
And didn't you say we can raise?
That's
you
what I
can
was
raise
asking
it
Jeremy. I'm pretty
outside
sure.
of-
Yeah, Jeremy said it doesn't have to be, I mean, it's usually done because the number generated is gonna go into.
In the budget.
Right.
Right.
But let's say we're in December, and Jeremy's looking, he's like, oh, wow, you know, we're gonna be under by. What is it, $118,649, so it's gonna leave us a zero in fund balance, you know, so we're not deficit, but we ain't got no savings.
Right,
So you could do a rate increase, and, I mean, you could literally do one in August, you can do. If that's what Jeremy was saying, but.
On the other hand, you know, prices go up every year, inflation, things happen. You know, the 3.5% is not a bad number, it's realistic, I don't know what the. You know, what the index is saying right now, and I know it's different in different parts of Oregon, but it's not unreasonable to have an increase.
So I will tell you guys, at the sewer plant, the biggest change originally proposed, because it was not whole as raises proposed to you guys, is electricity and chemicals. And then everything that we buy is still the same price as when it was during COVID, and there is no sign that it's gonna come down. So 11% increase on electricity. I don't remember what I told you, Jeremy, but I'm pretty sure they said plan for a 10% increase on chemicals, you know, and those are reflected in the budget. But you know, everything is more gas, look at gas for us, so, yeah, unfortunately.
Inflation is.
We're raising rates 11%. It's gonna be fun.
Garbage. Santa Fe shoulders.
Yeah,
Well, talk to your Board of County Commissioners.
Go
It's the INR.
ahead, Steve. Did you have something?
I was just going to say that, a $72 per month rate per EDU results, according to my calculations, $144,116 ending fund balance at June 30, 25. And the total bill for water, when you factor in both water and sewer, for a customer who uses 5,000 gallons a month, would increase $3.50 per month to cover that increase.
I think that most people can live with that.
again, we get desperate, if something comes up,
Or after the study?
we can bump it up. We have.
Well, we do have a utility assistance program, and one thing that got brought up, that we share, we have that. It's actually a pretty good program.
Yeah.
Water's a little easier to, water you want. Fix the sewer costs.
Yeah, that we can.
It's working.
I personally like the 70 to 98, because I feel like I'm paying less. Right.
Well,
That's a real thing, everybody does.
Well, the other thing is, we can make it around numbers, the water bill still throws it off.
Yeah. Sure.
See, I'm like Bill, if everything went to store and it was, this is $5, I would love it. I'd love to look at my bank account and see the number and then just zeros, you know.
Do that.
There, get around it.
Savings.
That's funny.
The actual retail price is $150.
You're really getting a bargain.
But yeah, 72 is fine.
I thought we were gonna do a little arm wrestling thing there.
We're gonna do leases at $699.99.
I was thinking we'd have to go out and settle it.
Yeah.
Those extra .09999 adds up.
Yes, it does.
614 households, yes, it would.
Yes, it would.
Get another $1,500, we, you know.
So just City Manager, the budget as it stands, is that the lower 61,
68.
58, yeah. So we will need to make a change in the budget.
For what you have before you tonight, the numbers in my suggested motion don't change. I would suggest that you pass a motion tonight to recommend that the council increase the sewer rates through the next stage in the process, but for tonight, I don't need to make any
Okay.
changes.
All right.
The numbers that you have under new business, those aren't gonna change with what you did just now.
Okay, so
So what do you agree on, 72? Is that what the number was?
that's what Phil wants.
Actually, it's gonna change. Yeah, let me. I misspoke, let me
Plus,
just.
what was that?
7202.
No.
Round up.
If you're going to 7202, we should go to 7298.
If you're gonna break that dollar, you might as well.
Yeah, we'll put water now as well.
Okay, so we're gonna.
Got an increase of $25,714.
Okay, let me, yeah, just let me. What number did you have, Max?
I have an increase using the 614 EDUs of $25,714
That's what I-
for the whole year.
That's
Yep.
fine. Just hopefully my computer doesn't crash when I try to update this calculation.
Jeremy, I just seen something that, the formula you had in the background, the very first one had 614 EDUs, which is the number we talked about. The spreadsheet on the over, it said 604.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think that's just.
I think your number's still right, it's just an over.
Yeah, my laptop is like my 17-year-old cat. It's very determined. But it's
Slow.
a little slow sometimes.
That's great.
I can just see it. Through the house.
Here's a cat like.
Slow lines.
Watching the mouse go across.
Bill.
Question, did we wrap up we were talking about other fee changes, development fees and application fees and all that, and it was discussed that those were gonna be reviewed. Are those already reviewed in the budget? Did I miss that as well, or is that something the council's gonna do, or is that something you do?
That was more informationally, that there's a lot of different steps that still have to occur.
That before that project is looked at?
Correct.
Okay,
But it's not in the budget,
nothing
is
is,
their point,
yeah,
right?
No,
Part of that e-permitting process that's going in, that's required by the state, so that's where all that's coming.
the building fund, yeah, along those lines, the building fund is based off of current.
at some point, the city is planning to review what we charge people for various and sundry things.
Correct.
And that will be updated to come in line with what they do cost. Whatever that is.
Correct.
Thank you.
So, am I thinking? What I'm thinking is we're getting almost there as far as the budget committee's responsibilities to go ahead and pass this. Moving forward with the suggestion or thing of raising the sewer rates to the city council. Is that kind of where we're at?
Before we approve the budget,
Before the budget committee moves it to.
right, did we have more to discuss on the overall, the raise on?
I just backed it in 3.5%.
Okay, I was just reading this, I didn't.
Information.
Okay,
Right, yeah, that's
I was just verifying that.
right, so, yeah, I thought we kind of agreed on it
Yeah,
last week and he's added to the budget, so I think we're good to go.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So this was the big deal. Is that-
I'm not liking his facial expressions over there, so. You okay, Jeremy?
Well, did we decide on the COLA?
That's what we're
Yes,
just
that-
talking about,
we're-
3.5.
That increase,
Yeah,
There is an increase in the COLA of 3.5.
and that's what the new budget is reflecting, and that all still works out for us.
Correct.
that was added in. That's some of the stuff, giving and taking away.
As far as the budget, are you guys, budget committee members, are you guys all?
I don't have any more questions.
Good? Huh? I know, I keep looking at him staring at
Well,
the
look at
computer.
that
I'm waiting.
bottom where it says calculating 0%, it's not too good.
Oh,
Oh,
but there's a lot of information in that too.
It's on the cloud, so I think that has something to do with it.
Oh, sure.
You know.
It is not, it's,
Pretty
and
slow.
you
Disconnect that.
it's a direct, it's in a business DFM. So,
So can we make a decision or
It-
are we waiting for?
Are we
information?
Well, I think we were gonna leave everything as is, with the suggestion that city council consider rating.
I'm just trying to see what the,
Then no.
there is.
Just trying to run it through, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to run
Sure
that-
It's what we
Okay,
think
yeah,
is
so we'll
supposed
just-
to happen.
yeah, that's exactly.
Okay, so we'll wait for you. Or we'll wait for your computer.
The internet here is not.
Yeah.
Not helping.
We don't have another item to go through at all, so. Sorry, sure,
I guess we
everybody's
could-
standing
we could
around.
approve the tax rate.
Is that, do I have a motion for that?
Well, sure, I move to approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 tax rate of 2.1613 per thousand of assessed value.
Second. Okay, approved. Do we have?
I think we.
You don't have to vote.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, yes.
All
I'm just trying to really.
Lisa and I are good with everything.
Yeah.
No, no.
Okay, so I guess we need to vote, everybody that
You're not the problem, team.
I,
say aye.
I,
Opposed, say. Okay. So,
I'd like to note that Mayor Bennett voted aye,
oh, okay.
as you can see here on the screen.
yes.
All
I
right.
see.
Yes.
So we have approval on the motion of consideration of the fiscal year 2024-2025 tax rate of 2.1613.
Is that what it was last year?
Yeah, that's the one that
That's a fix.
it's fixed and we never.
the only thing we can do is lower it.
Right.
How far?
Round number, round number.
We just. We're trying to-
Yeah, let's do it.
Bill, look at your tax statement.
1.00.
You tell me which one you think needs to be lower, because there's a clear outlier, and it's the city of Lowell. Not even close to the other ones. I mean, not even one.
Let's leave
What's
this
that?
the same in per,
I hear all my friends.
how about you do the same per and instead of this per 1,000, per 10,000?
And what would be referring to general fund?
Yes, we have more meetings.
Is that still thinking?
It is.
I
So your taxable rate is not your assessed value.
I'll move to approve fiscal year.
It says it,
2024-25
you get your taxable value,
Two point
then
one
it's
six
3%
one
a year.
3,000.
The increase.
But,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's still need that. We just did that, yeah.
Okay,
no.
good.
So we're waiting for the computer
That's that
to,
property
You got your
tax.
maximum assessed value, you got your market value.
Just to make sure it's
assessed value.
just to make sure there's no surprise.
It used to be,
Just
yeah,
make it
that people get right
complicated.
out of their homes. That's what started it all, was Prop 13 in California. To do that limitation. And then the 50 lets you allows you to add new development to the assessed value, because otherwise you could put in 500 homes and bring on a whole bunch of kids and stuff, and you couldn't, the tax rate would just go down. So 49 limited at 50, allowed you to add at least new development to the taxable base.
Is that Prop
Right, but it
13?
needs to get, that's in California. It's here, it was 49, maybe 49. Cause yeah, you can get a whole bunch more kids and no money to deal with it, no money to deal with streets ending, it's like, I mean, for cities with developable land, it just kill you a whole bunch of development, so that's a good deal.
I'm gonna need to take this back to my office and make the changes for tonight. Here's what I suggest.
Mhm.
I suggest, approving the motion as it's written below. The city council, they can make changes tonight, based on what you're recommending, as long as it's within a certain level. So that's what I suggest.
So,
But it'd be with the intent that this is the change. just-
right,
Yeah, no,
right,
But that may not be the number.
right.
yeah, we'll just verify that it's,
It's still not. It's not doing what I want it to do,
Okay.
that's,
so I'm just gonna take that one.
Let's just do it.
Turn it off and on.
Yeah.
we can fix.
All right, then, do we have a motion for?
Yes, I move to approve the fiscal year 2025, 2024, 2025 budget for the city of Lowell, Oregon, in the amount of $4,656,650, of which $81,886 is unappropriated and reserved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So then, do we have a,
Never mind.
do we have an aye?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aye.
So we have approved motion, to the fiscal year 2024-25 budget for the city of Lowell, Oregon, in the amount of $4,652,652, of which $81,886 is unappropriated and reserved. Okay, believe that's all we wanted to accomplish tonight, unless there's something else we want to.
I'll just say thanks to everybody
Sure.
for your participation. I thought this was a really good working group. You did good work this week, which we did last week.
Nice to have some consistency, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, hopefully it's helpful to do. You're accurate.
It is, no, I'm feeling much better. One thing that would help me if we go into multiple things is when we make the changes to a fund or we change something. And this could just be me. I love to see like a red line, a highlight version, so I know, okay, on page X, this line, and then I can see exactly what changed. That may just be me. It's helpful because there's a lot of pages here and I'm like, okay, now what changed? And reading about it, I want to go back to the original to see it. And I'm like, okay, what did that do? Okay, there's the number. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's possible, but that'd be helpful for a layman.
oh,
Okay, then. So let's go ahead and adjourn, 7:12. Everybody,
Thank you.
All right, and leave the table to.
leave the table here.
Can't take them home.